The other thing that we did in terms of groundwater was we dug nests of monitoring wells all around the site, early warning wells, so we could tell if anything was moving off the site underground. And we actually found that in the south end of the site, maybe I should just take a moment. This is Regional Road 70, this is Concession 13, this is Mr. Strauss's home, and this is roughly where he had the tires piled where they burnt. And this big holding pond was dug right down here at the edge of the site, and we had an oil water separator down here, which was put in the first day, which is a very simple system. It's just, if this is the ditch with the water flowing on, you just put a little dam in of earth, and you put a culvert, what they call a reverse culvert, so that as this comes down, the oil floats to the top. You have oil floating on top, but the only thing that can get through here is the water on the bottom. So that separates the water from the oil. If you do that 2 or 3 times, you get water out of here which is contaminated, but which doesn't have oil in it. We dug our nests of monitoring wells around the site to check that no contamination was coming off the site, because we want to get the site itself cleaned up so no more contamination comes out of it. And we wanted to check that no underground water was flowing. Each of these has 3 wells in it. One's a shallow well, 10 feet deep, one's medium, and one's deep. So we can check the groundwater at different levels. And here's what we're finding underneath the site. The site slopes to the south slightly like this. This is a height of land as regards the rock. So the rock underneath looks like that, and this is limestone. This is clay, which gets deeper as you go to the south of the site. And what's happening here is the top layer of the rock is very, very fractured and weathered. It's full of water, and the water can move quickly through those fractures. Then there's like a solid block of rock down to about 60 feet. And then there's another fractured layer full of water. When people dig wells in this area, they drill down 80 to 90 feet to get to this water. The water table, which is right underneath the surface, it's about a meter down here, means that all this rock is full of water. The oil came down, floated on the water, in the rock, and moved south until it hit the clay and stopped. And that's, Bill just nicked the edge of that reservoir of oil when he dug that, and took the pressure off it. We felt really good about this as we collected the oil. We dug our monitoring wells, and we thought as soon as anything moves in the groundwater, we're going to pick it up. When we dug this well, we found it was contaminated already, south of the road. And we thought, What we have since found out was there was another piece of geology here that we hadn't known about. Inside this clay, there's a layer of sand through which the water can move quickly. And this sand was probably a very ancient beach millions of years ago, which was laid down on this rock. This may have been an island in the lake or the sea that was there many millions of years ago. And then the clay got laid down on top of it. And the contaminated water was just zipping out along this sand layer, which we couldn't see underneath. So this sand layer is coming right down underneath here. What we've been doing for the last week, there hasn't been much media attention to it, I don't really know why. We've been drilling more holes across this field. Sandust Creek goes down here to see how far the sand layer goes. And we think it goes about that far and then stops. Good news, bad news. So that's really where we are now. We're testing all the material on the site. We're going to try to isolate wherever areas of oil are left here and get them out first and as quickly as possible. In the meantime, We continue to truck water out of here over to Townsend, to lagoons, or else treat it in our plant. So we're staying ahead of it. But you can imagine that to do this required emergency team, required people who could do the mathematical modeling to figure out how the smoke plume dispersed, how it would dilute enough to where it was safe. We needed people who knew how to operate air monitoring instruments. We needed bell phone people. We had cellular phones down there. We had to have communications in and out. We needed people who knew about the surface water, who knew about the screen, who knew how the screen moved, how contaminants would move in it. We needed people who knew how to operate a water treatment plant, how to clean up water, which is a completely different expertise. We needed people with trucks to truck water. We needed the people down in the oil refinery who knew about oil. We needed people who knew about the different kinds of contaminants and how they move in the air. We needed people who knew about groundwater, about the hydro-geology, about how water moves through the soil, how you deal with that. And we also needed people in waste management who know how to clean up soil, who know how to move waste, who know how to recycle material. We needed our purchasing agents who knew how to just get us the money so we could hire people to go in and dig and use bulldozers. We needed the people who knew how to operate the bulldozers. We needed the firefighters. We needed the pilots who flew the aircraft. And we also needed people who could do the accounting, who could figure out how to pay, get the money moving around so we could do all these different things. We needed people who could work with the public, who could answer all the public's questions about this kind of thing, who could deal with the media, which is different from dealing with the public. It's a very different expertise. And we also needed people who could answer the phones, answer all these questions. Right now we're getting the compensation experts in, so they know how to deal. There are 3 homes here which we're in the process of purchasing because the people don't want to move back into them. So essentially what we're saying is we need them for the construction site, but we're really buying them because the people don't want to move back into those houses again. How do you estimate the value of your property? You need someone who knows all about that. There's a tremendous richness and variety of different kinds of knowledge to deal with this kind of thing. And we're not through yet. Our consulting firm, whom we came down to help us develop a cleanup plan, we sat down to write out the different areas of work involved. And this is like broad areas of work. And of just the ones that we're involved with, and that does not count, well, I think now it counts policing the site, but it didn't then. It does not count, flying water bombers or, fighting the fire or any of those kinds of things. I think there were like 50 different areas of work that the Ministry of the Environment alone is still involved in and that are ongoing on the site. So if we talk about careers, I think it's important as we move into that to be very aware of what you're comfortable with and what your strengths are. And those are 2 different things. Like you can get sucked into doing something that you don't like just because you're good at it. And you have to be really careful about that. When I talked about these character differences, one thing my wife and I did recently is called a Myers-Briggs personality profile, which we find really interesting and instructive. And if you ever do that, I'm sure you'll find the same thing. And it's useful to you because it lets you know where your strengths are. But if you ever do it, also remember that you have to work in your areas of weakness as well.